let's talk about our favorite. This has been just sticking in my craw all weekend. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Liz Cheney, her primary is coming up. She's cast to lose in a historic degree, but she's going out with a bang in terms of being feted by the national press. And this time the national press, look at the language they use. The 1-minute ad landed with a bang on social media. Dick Cheney excoriates Trump in an ad for his daughter. Here's what Mr. Cheney says. In our nation's 246 history, there has never been an individual that was a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. That's how he opens the ad. He goes and he casts it and says that is why Wyoming voters, of which he used to represent, should come out and vote for Dick Cheney. And this led to some of the worst and most cringe appraisal that exists, both by MSNBC. We have a clip. Let's take a listen.
Right. Progressive saying yesterday to me, I love Dick Cheney now. It's frying people's synapses. They don't know how to process what they're seeing right now.
Okay, I mean, do we have to state the obvious? Like, first of all, I can think of a few individuals who are greater threats to the republic, but this is just the problem with the entire Trump era. It, like, broke everybody's brain. No, guys, actually, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush, by the way, no matter what you think of Trump, literally no matter what, we're obviously way worse from an authoritarian perspective.
Well, how about just even on the metric? Because the pushback from the Lizzo, well, they didn't try to steal an election. No, they didn't try. They succeeded. They actually did it in 2000.
They overthrew a country called Iraq, which is really bad.
How about that? And like upended our entire, I mean, when you think of our trajectory of national decline, you could place it with a few people, but there's a pretty strong case to be made for Bush, the tax cuts for the wealthy, the Iraq war, the financial collapse. I mean, all of that happens. Not to mention, and people sometimes, Katrina and the complete failure of that response, which really, was a moral, just devastating in terms of the lives lost and the families that were destroyed and the communities that were, it was horrific. And it also, I think, nationally really scarred us in terms of our own confidence about our government's ability to show up and perform in these situations. So, yeah, I can think of a few people who were a greater threat and actually created much, much worse harm. And that's not to whitewash the Trump era whatsoever and how horrible he was. But for this dude to come out and lecture, give me a break. To Willie Guy's point there about like, oh, progressives are confused. To the extent that they're confused, like you have your network to blame. Because you all are the ones who elevated all these people, and like as long as they were opposed to Trump, then now suddenly they're heroes and giving Nicole Wallace like, primetime slots and all of that stuff. Like you all are the ones who created that confusion and didn't make it so that people could understand like Bush and Cheney and that crew were bad and actually helped pave the way directly to Trump. And yes, Trump is also bad. That is not a hard thing to understand. It did not have to break people's brains. You all did that. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And also it's like, oh, this is a powerful message from a Republican. I'm like, guys, if you cannot at this point in American politics understand that Dick Cheney is not a mainstream Republican, like what profession are you in? Like, why are you lying to people? And when Liz Cheney loses by a historic degree in the Wyoming primary, now they're saying that she's going to be running for like Wyoming. They're like, this may be Liz Cheney heads for a loss, but she's not done. It's like, okay, what's next? She says she's going to be a Republican. By the way, she also came out and said she wouldn't even support Ron DeSantis. I'm like, okay, then you're not a Republican. You're just a Democrat. By the way, that's fine. It's okay in order to switch parties in this country, or just say like, I'm not affiliated with the current mainstream. Instead, she has like mounting these quixotic, thing in the media, which is all fake. It's like, why can't you just give it up? And then to have the press, just like they did with W. You remember W in what was in the funeral speech or whatever, and he was like, we see threats here at home. They're like, President Bush makes a historic denouncement of Donald Trump. And then what we covered on our show, is whenever he slips up and he's like, to have another country unprovoked invade Iraq. He's like, I meant Ukraine.
Well,
That is what is worth covering. It's like, I just feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Well, the sign of how broken brains are is that Liz Cheney's approval rating is higher with Democrats than Republicans. When she, on every issue, is right-wing. She's almost consistently, uniformly on the far right, voted with Trump, however many percent. She's very reliable in terms of being a very conservative senator. And so the fact that Trump was interested in making the divide all about Trump, but also MSNBC and CNN and these other places played into that as well, where the only thing that mattered is where he stood on the issue of Trump. That's what helped to create this sort of brain disease where someone who is as far right as Liz Cheney could be loved more by Democrats and would be completely rejected by Republicans ultimately because they made it all about where do you stand on the figure of Donald Trump. So it is interesting. I wonder what her next play is. Could be a media play. She could also get a seat on the board of like Raytheon or whatever. She's got options.
I just wish she would go away and the Cheneys.
I mean, listen,
just leave.
I do think on the issue, like, I dissent from the idea that it didn't take any courage to stake out the ground that she did with regards to impeachment and January 6th and Trump. I do think that that was courageous, and clearly it had direct political costs. But the idea that Liz Cheney is some sort of hero, that Dick Cheney is some sort of hero because they were right on this one particular thing, that does not erase the sins of everything else that they did, especially the sins of everything that Dick Cheney did.
I think that's correctly said.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.